trust.
Oh,
Yes. That's awesome.
Excellent. All right. I'm just waiting for Facebook to say that we're actually live, but we are actually probably live, as I've discovered. So, all right, we are live. It is just a minute or two after 3, so we are starting late, but that is all right. It actually is perfect for the topic that we're going to be talking about today. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Friday Afternoon Conversations with Spokane small business and entrepreneurs. We've got a great group of people here today, and I'm excited to jump into our topic. I do want to start out by introducing our lack of one guest. Cherie Sauer is our guest presenter today, and she unfortunately has a migraine that she was hoping would have gone away, but it did not, so she was not able to make it today. So we're going to fill in a little bit of content based on that very topic, is how do you show up when you can't show up? So what happens when you have a commitment that you've made, and for one reason or another, there's a conflict with arriving for that commitment? How do you make the decision of which commitment to stick with, and then how do you work through excusing yourself from the one that you have to back out of? So that's kind of the topic that we're going to be talking about today, but I want to start by introducing everybody in the room, and we've got I'm just super excited. This is like, Sarah, I've been waiting to meet you in person, and here we're going to have that introduction live on Facebook, so super excited to hear from you. And then Kelsey, we just met, and so I'm super excited to go a little bit deeper with that. And we've got Steve Hicks coming in.
Hi, guys.
Welcome in, brother. So let's just go ahead and get started with Sarah. You're actually, Stephen, since you're going to be to my left, I'm going to put you on the spot. And so let's start with you.
I can do that.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you in today, or some other random topic that you choose.
Well, my name is Steve Hicks. I run Thriving Body Holistic Fitness, and it's kind of my mission to make fitness easy and sustainable, because I think life's just better when we're fit and healthy. And yeah, I'm in just kind of connect with people and have a little fun with some chit chat.
Excellent. Welcome in.
Yeah.
Sarah, jumping to you.
Hello, I'm Sarah. I'm a small business coach. So I help people turn the thing they love to do into a successful and supportive business without sacrificing themselves. And I really focus on bridging the gap between like traditional business concepts and what actually goes into creating a successful, independent, solopreneur style business. And I'm here today because I used to come to the networking events a long time ago and haven't been to one in a while, and wanted to see what's up and say hello to everyone.
Excellent. Awesome. Glad that you're here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
I'm Kelsey Hines. I am an operations manager and producer at Naomi Cohen Insurance Agency. I'm just kind of branching out to network. I'm pretty new to this, so I am just coming to network and learn new people and meet.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Welcome in.
I'm Daniel. I'm the owner and operator of ITO Nexus. We are your technology success partner. I'm new to Spokane, so getting branched out into networking groups, meeting new businesses, and what we do is we protect your business from the cyber threats out there while helping you grow with new technology and teaching you how to utilize it.
Awesome. Love it.
Okay. I'm Rob Bruder with IDIC Designs, Infinite Diversity and Infinite Combinations, and like Daniel, I am also in the IT space, and I work on technology strategies and making sure, as he does, that you don't have problems that end your business, and at the same time help you strategize how to use technology effectively and profitably.
All right. Awesome. And in the back, we have our engineer, Data Mining Mike. Talk a little bit so that we get you on the screen before you introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Data Mining Mike. I got all your favorite flavors of data that you want on your lovers and your haters. Hit me up. I am your doorway to the digital economy.
All right. The owl doesn't like you sitting that far back, so I think we picked up your audio, but we'll have to work on that. Maybe we'll have you stand up next time. All right, and I'm Jonathan Biron. I'm your host today. I am a realtor here in Spokane, and my goal this year is to help 100 people buy a house. I think that we're in a market that is perfect for especially first-time buyers paying too much money on rent. And so if you know somebody that is making a good income and they haven't made that decision yet, I want to walk them through kind of the fog of what keeps us from making that initial investment. It seems very intimidating. I like to make it simple, make it clear, and create a path that makes sense for them. So that's me. That's us at the table. If more people show up, we'll have them introduce themselves as we go. But guys, welcome.
Thank you.
While we're on the kind of introductory subject, I want to do a few things. One, I want to shout out Action Business Furniture is where we're hosting this conversation. They're absolutely phenomenal as hosts. They kind of let us take over the space, and we love them for it. They also have an incredible selection of office furniture. So if you need something for your business, for your home office, come check them out. They're on the corner of Sprague and Park.
I
And
can confirm chairs are comfy.
yes,
Everything's so
These-
beautiful out there.
yeah, these aren't even the best chairs, and I could just sit in this all day long. Also, it's a great crowd. So yeah, check them out. You threw me off there. Something else. Also, we're here every Friday at 3:00. So as some people that walked in right at 3:00 found, like we are like up and running at 3. So get here at 2:55, something like that. Second thing is we like to shout out events, and one that we've been shouting out that we're super excited about is our friends over at Burbity with the Our-Connect crowd have a workshop coming up this Tuesday, February 18th from 10 to 1. And here's the part you want to pay attention to. For the next 24 hours, if you use the promo code SSBE, that $50 event, this is an incredible workshop with two people that I'm super excited to hopefully get out there and hear from. Kurt, I'm drawing a blank on his last name. Help me out. Stockwell. Kurt Stockwell. And then Kara Hooper. This is terrible. I had this all right where I wanted it, and now I'm not
Threw
seeing.
'em off.
Kurt Stockwell and Kara Hooper. We did get it correct. Just talking about making your business more visible. Fantastic presenters. I'm super excited. $50 normally. If you use the code SSBE in the next 24 hours, you can get into that event for free.
Wow.
So that's a little bit of value for tuning in live, and why you shouldn't miss this live broadcast at 3 p.m. All right, I'm done plugging us and done plugging them. We also have a bunch of other exciting stuff. Dave Ribble, who couldn't be with us in person, every other Saturday has an event at the library.
Once a month.
Once a month.
Dave just had his event at the Shada Library last weekend. So in March will be his next one.
Okay.
That you want to check out. Communication collaboration.
Do you know the date of that? Other than March?
I don't remember which one that is. Dated. And another. I'll just go ahead and keep the floor here for a minute. Another event coming up in the month of March. I am founder of an online learning community called All for One Academy, and in March we're running a 21-day business growth challenge. And so we're inviting everyone who wants to sit down and learn and develop some daily habits around business growth to check us out. So I'll be posting more about that in the group
Excellent.
as we get closer.
Awesome. We just had 3 new guests walk in. I'm super excited to see you guys. This is like a treat.
The
I love
stash
it.
and the beard unite.
Yes. And we're sitting across, so there's like this synthesis. This is great. So you guys that just came in, you kind of missed. We went around the table, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about what you do and how our audience. So also full disclosure, this is a camera and a microphone, so you are live if you're loud enough. And Steve, it was giving me feedback that you weren't loud enough, so you might want to scoot a little
man.
closer or speak
All
up.
right.
But tell us who you are and how we can connect with you.
Well, I'm Mandy Karstensen. I'm with Q Home Loans. So the real estate agent helps you find a house, and I help you find the money for the house. And I love this group. I love that we're connecting with this big following that we have online, and that we're all just doing this really collaborative thing. I'm super stoked about it.
Excellent. Welcome in.
I love to go. I'm Nick Dunlap, aka the Mustachio. And I just really help people with money and help them navigate IRS codes so they can mitigate taxes as much as possible and get to retirement, and help them put a plan together to do that, because we hate paying taxes and they take too much of it. So I help stop that from happening.
Awesome.
My name is Jose Alexander. I'm actually was working in title. I'm kind of looking for a new place to land, but that doesn't stop me getting out and networking. But yeah, I've been working with agents and helping folks understand when they buy property what that looks like, and and then we'll see what the next adventure goes.
Awesome. We've
A
got
bunch of first-time homebuyer classes, very engaged in the community.
excellent.
Fabulous.
Yeah. Well, we've talked about doing some buyer classes, so I think there's some discussion to be had off camera about what this next season looks like. So
More collaboration.
super excited, super excited to have you guys. I'm gonna have Rob keep an eye on the comments and
Okay.
things like that, and
Okay.
nudge me if we need to shout anybody out. But we do have an audience at home. I did just mention, but for people that are just joining us, there is an event out at Burbity on Tuesday with Arconnect. We'll put a link to the event, but we can't publish this. This is not like a publishable thing, but the code SSBE, all caps, will get you a free ticket to that event for it's $50 value. So it's going to be an awesome event. If you're not doing anything Tuesday, check that out, and we get you in for free. So super excited to partner up on that. The topic today, I think we're good to jump into that. Did we miss any other?
I have an upcoming event.
Yes, please, Sarah, tell us about your event.
Please, sir.
So I'm hosting a small business mingle February 26th for small business owners and solopreneurs in the Spokane area to really just come together and get to know each other in person. So that's February 26th, 5 to 7 p.m. And really the only way you can get to it is going through my social media or, just my social
All right.
media.
Will you go in later and comment the link that they can get to it on this
Sure,
feed so
thank
that
you.
people can find that? And then we'll try to link to all of these things as we go so that people can find them. This live usually stays live for 24 hours or so. And then after that, we have it on YouTube. So the promo code is only for 24 hours though. So if you want to go to that event, make that a high priority. Set that, take a note, something like that. Anything else? Any other announcements? Any events coming up, particularly in February, early March, that we should be highlighting? I'm not seeing anybody jump at that chance. So we'll just jump into today's topic. And I'm very excited to hear from our assembled audience here, like what your experience has been with this. So the topic is this. Our guest presenter, Cherie Sauer, absolutely incredible coach, absolutely incredible communicator. Super excited to have her on the show. She's in bed with a migraine. And she had the migraine. She thought like she'd have it cleared up by the time this rolled around. And today she was like, yeah, it's just not going to happen. So we communicated, and she very gracefully, graciously bowed out and gave me time to plan and come up with what we're going to talk about. And I thought that would be the perfect topic, is like we've all found ourselves in a situation where we set ourselves up to go to something. We committed to doing something. We said, I will be there. And some kind of life circumstance came up that caused us to have to rethink that obligation. So as an example, you're in bed with a migraine or you're very ill. Another example that came to my mind is, a loved one is in the hospital and you feel the need to go and be with them or even just, be available in case they need somebody to show up. Or you just have, and this is an interesting one, I'd love to hear like some ethical considerations for this, something better comes up, right? You commit to being at a party with 10 people and somebody invites you to go to a public speaking presentation where there's 1,000 people in the audience and they're going to pay you, right? So like it's a better opportunity, but you had already committed to doing something else. So weigh in on the ethical obligation there if you want to, but really I kind of want to dive into like, how do you make that decision for yourself? If it's for your body, where your body just needs rest, what do you weigh in the balance? And then once you've made that decision, what are maybe some tips and tricks as far as how to communicate to the person that you're about to let down? Being, on the one end of the spectrum is like, don't say anything, just don't show up, right? And, kind of humorously, if Cherie just didn't show up and none of us were expecting, it was like, where's Cherie? We don't know, right? That's obviously like on the fail end of the spectrum, but like in the middle, what's the sweet spot of communicating that need to not be present? And how do you, as it's been communicated to you, what did you appreciate? All of that stuff. So I know that's a lot. And I see a lot of like gears spinning, but somebody jump in and
I can keep it pretty simple.
All right,
so
Nick, hit it.
I'm a little bit different than most. I am very blunt with how I present myself. So if I can't make it somewhere or I have something going on with me, I just tell the person, and it's just like black and white. It's like, hey, my back's hurt. I threw it out today, I'm not going to be able to make it, sorry, it's 10 minutes before. But you also have to come up with a solution, right? Be like, hey, I have my buddy John, he might be able to be there in like 30 minutes, he's pretty good at this stuff, do you mind if I give him a call and he can do a backup for me? So I think it's just being just honest and blunt as soon as it happens, but then you need to game plan a way to help that person out still and not just leave them out in the open where now they're vulnerable to whatever situation that you left them.
That's great. That's great. And that's a very huge difference is I can't be there, but here's a workaround, a solution.
Yeah, when I was a fitness director at LifeQuest in Pasco, I used to have this conversation with my staff all the time. It's like, guys, I appreciate your feedback. I need you to stop bringing problems, though. Can you bring solutions? So anytime you got hard news to bring someone, everyone's got enough problems, enough things going on. Just don't bring more problems to people. Bring them solutions. And even if it's not the solution that you guys end up doing together, at least it starts the conversation and it keeps hostility down.
Yes.
No, I can agree with that. Same point. Being in the technology field, if I have a personal commitment where I'm supposed to show up, and there's potential where I can't get there, there's always the ability to do it remotely, right?
Sure.
We live in a technology world. We have access to Zoom, Teams, Google Meet. If there's the ability to do it remotely and still perform it and get through it and then proceed in the rest mode, there's that option. But if you actually cannot do it, come up with a solution and perform it.
It's awesome.
I think it's twofold there, right? So we have two different questions. What happens in the moment, but what happens if you have lead time, right? One would say, master the art of no. So that scenario of, hey, I already have the commitment, because in the field of, real estate and all that come up with it, you ask yourself, well, if you had a certain appointment, let's say you had your appointment already with that client, would you say no to that client just to go somewhere else? You'd probably still keep it. So you do have to honor that no, or you have to learn that art of saying no, but then there's great feedback right there at the same time saying, hey, how can I still fill that position for you? I had a commitment a week and a half from now, they teaching a first-time homebuyers class, I'm not able to perform that, but I'm like, you're right. You get scared of kind of calling up and saying, hey, I don't want to let them down. If you remember, why did they choose you in the first place? Why did they set that appointment with you in the first place? And that was because you were honest and you were upfront. They'll respect that, right? So telling that person no demands more attention to yourself, because now you're valuable, you're in demand, they want you to show up. But then if you're able to say, no, I already have another commitment, they honor that by saying, this person's not just going to win out on me. And then if you're in that last second moment where you are a medical emergency, a family member, then if you establish that professional rapport with them, they're going to understand, first of all, they don't do this, just like you're saying. So-and-so doesn't show up right away. You're just like, instantly, where did they go? On a day like today, we got snow falling everywhere. Are they okay? Did they make it even here, or they're on their way? And then if not, I'll fall back to just like everyone else said, finding that, hey, but I think I have someone else that can sit in for me. And just showing that value that you do care. So I think it kind of goes a little bit both ways. If you know it's coming, get in front of it. Talk it out, say you can't make it, let them know, be upfront about it. Don't wait to the last second, but if it is something last second, if you can, it's not always there. If it's family, you got to get there, but maybe contact a team member to help out right there.
That's great.
Yeah, I think everyone has made such good points. I don't have a lot of client appointments in my business, so I feel like my experience with this is kind of different. But I think the authenticity and being like, hey, I don't feel good, I'm not feeling my best today, whatever it is, I think just being open and honest with people, and then like having the solution, saying, okay, like for me, hey, I can't meet you that day, but here's some alternative days I can meet. And I've experienced this with like my friends being like, hey, I have to reschedule, but here's another time we can meet. It just, I think instead of just like being like, oh, sorry, can't see you, like stopping there, taking that next step to be like, here's when I actually can see you, really helps people feel cared for.
Yeah.
And I think like along that same vein of, we get in our heads a lot about it, of not wanting to let people down. And then that really tempts us to do the ostrich method. Of just, I'm just gonna ignore it.
Yeah.
I don't want to make that call, so I'll make it tonight, I'll make it tomorrow, I'll make it later.
Yeah.
And the thing is that people are usually very understanding and very forgiving, and they want your success. So even if you say to them, like, I've got this amazing opportunity, most of the time, particularly if you could come up with a solution, they're going to want that for you. So, if you just are upfront and you're honest and you handle it at the very first moment, that is the difference between being a flake and not. We all have busy lives. We're always going to have to be changing things and adapting. The difference is whether or not you bring that person along with you at that first moment or not. If you just, don't call them. If the appointment has already happened, and then like you said, you're like, I hope they're okay. Like that anxiety moment, that a minute can feel like a really long amount of time if you're just left wondering. Whereas if you know, like, oh, they already told me their call went late, I'm not expecting them for another 5 minutes, that 5 minutes feels proportionately like 5 minutes because you know what's happening. So I think that's like the big thing, is just making sure that you're letting the other person have that information as soon as you have it.
That's great.
100%. And that's really why we make the partnerships and businesses that we do, right? Is because if things come up, we can call those people that we rely on in these partnerships, because as businesses, we work together. So when we work with another business, it's not just we're working with that business and another business. It's a giant referral partner network. So if I work with business A, and business A has, oh, hey, I need a realtor, I go, hey, I work with another realtor, let me get you their number. Or it's like, oh, hey, I need to step out, but I know a realtor that works in the same style of field, and they can step in for me because they know this as well.
Yeah.
And that's where it's like, oh, hey, now they have the opportunity to step up.
Yeah.
So it creates more of opportunism for other people that may not usually get that opportunity as well.
I like that.
I was kind of going back a little bit. We're talking about the moment you have to change your plans, schedule. One of the things I would contribute is remember that setting that opportunity up begins at the beginning of the relationship with them. So, for instance, in my 20 plus years, I have had to shift suddenly because one client is in crisis mode, another client I'm scheduled to do something for. It's important, but it's not crisis. It's not something. And I had to call them up. The one I'm saying, look, we were going to work on this week, but I have a customer who's down. Their business is nothing. I have to spend my time getting them back in operations. And sometimes it's actually even been as long as a month, where I just said, my head's down. I have to put in everything I can to get this project done. We're going to have to put this project on the back burner. But because I communicate that with my customers from the beginning, saying, I'm here when your business is down, and I'm with them when their business is down, and then they begin to understand the dynamics of not just them and me, but me and everyone else that I'm serving at that point.
Yeah.
So they give me grace when I need to throw up my hand and say, I'm sorry, I'm just not going to be available.
That expectation
Yeah.
setting is essential, and you're doing it in a way that even when they get backburnered, they feel like they're still very valuable because they would receive that same treatment. So that's excellent.
Yeah, clear expectations and clear communication.
Yeah. I do want to jump on that. So there's two things. One, and I'm curious as we go around, like, remind us what industry you're in, because I think that a lot of this has to do with what does your industry look like, and what is showing up for your client look like, what is showing up for partners look like. But something that you said triggered a thing that I've been able to leverage a few times that is just fantastic when it works out. So I'm in a situation where it's like, I really don't want to keep this appointment that I've made. And for me with real estate, it could be like a meeting with a lender, right? It's like, it's not essential. It's not time urgent. It's just, we're building our relationship with each other and all that stuff. And something comes up that's like, oh man, like this is like a chance for me to do a buyer appointment with somebody that's going to buy a house in the next month. It's like, so like what I'll do, and I'm looking at Mandy because she's a lender, right? So like Mandy and I have.
To cancel with me all the time.
Right, but so here's the trick, and I'm curious if this would work in everyone's industry, but like I might call Mandy, and here's, it's super important. I'm not a text, not an email, a phone call, right? I call Mandy. If I get her voicemail, I just hang up because she's going to see the missed call me back. I wait until we're voice to voice. And I say, hey, Mandy, just checking in about our meeting on Tuesday. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't say, hey, can you still make it? I just say, hey, just checking in about our meeting on Tuesday. And then this is a huge tip. Let silence do the heavy lifting. Leave silence, because that awkward silence, like however you're feeling it, they're feeling it too. Let that silence, let them. And so eventually she's going to be like, well, actually, I'm kind of busy, and so all of a sudden she's actually asking me, like, hey, could we just push this to another date? And then I can just very graciously say, you know what, actually that would work really well for me as well. Let's look at our calendar and put something else on. So now I move it to Thursday. We still get to have lunch. I haven't been the one that and it's not that it puts the other person in a place where they owe you, but it prevents you from having to be the bad guy that like cancels the appointment. It's collaborative in that way. So,
and I like what you said a lot of partnership, because I think that really is what we're building with our clients, what we're building with coworkers, and all these different relationships. And as a partner, if you were to call me and say, oh hey, I have the opportunity to do a buyer's one, I'm like, oh my gosh, well then when canceled,
right.
Because I would never want you. I'm for your success. So, if I'm just going to collaborate about it, but then you have an opportunity to actually capture it, like I would want you
Sure.
absolutely to be doing that other thing. And so I think that may even be a really great opportunity to gain the knowledge. You could go and have 5 lunches with them, but if their reaction is very selfish and like, okay, like, well, okay to you. Because I want real collaboration and partnership with someone's like, oh crap, you got that? I'm so excited for you. Well, what about next week?
Right.
Letting them know that you're for their success.
And that would be the follow-on. If you say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, I've been looking forward to this, that lets me gauge where you're at with it.
Yeah.
And so my ask to you is going to be tempered more with, I'm also super excited. I was really looking forward to it. I had this opportunity come up. How do you feel about that? Versus if I had just texted you, hey, I can't make it.
Yeah.
Right? Or how would you feel about canceling? Right? All of a sudden I'm putting a negative spin on what otherwise can be a very positive interaction. So I would say, and I'm seeing a lot of nods, if you have to, a phone call is a lot better than a text. And a text is probably better than an email, and all of those are better than just not showing up.
Well, I'm gonna be the naysayer here.
Yes!
As John was talking the first time, my brain was just going, God, I hate this. Being in fitness, one of the conversations I often have with my clients is, fitness habits are not chores. They are promises to yourself, and to be successful with fitness, you have to have integrity to keep your promises, especially to yourself, right? And this is something that people often fall into because they make a commitment, they make an obligation, and then they negotiate out of it. Now, when Mindy was talking, like, hey, if you come up and you let me know, like, hey, you got a buyer opportunity, I understand that, and I want you to be successful. We can work together and collaborate and rearrange. But calling someone up and trying to put pressure on them to trick them into getting out of your obligation, like especially as it bleeds into my field, when you have a commitment, when you have an obligation, it's best to be integrous and have the integrity to see that through. Obviously, circumstances come up. If that circumstance comes up, you can explain the circumstances and work around. You can always kind of retool as situations change. But that openness to dodge or to miss obligations, I see this hold clients back with their fitness. I just see it also hold people back with their personal relationships. When you make a commitment or an obligation, I'm a big fan of just being integrous to your word, having that integrity and keeping your word. And I think that should be something as well. When we were asking the questions, if there's a better opportunity that comes up, obviously there's circumstances, right? Your first example was like, hey, if you're doing like lunch versus a paid speaking engagement, like that magnitude of difference is, one goes towards a dream, one goes towards a big priority. That's a circumstance you can negotiate. But if it's the same level, like a previous standing commitment, I'm a big fan of seeing your commitments through and keeping your word.
Yeah, I think everybody resonates with that. And full disclosure, I am the same way. Like, if I have lunch with Mandy and all of a sudden, I don't want to pick on anybody because that'll elevate them over the other person. Nick, her husband, is perfect. Nick calls me. He's like, hey, dude, you want to have lunch? And I'm like, Mandy, sorry, I can't make it.
And I think that, like you're mentioning, too, there is a big difference, I think, based off of each industry. Whereas you and I are making our whole schedule throughout a week is appointment-based, that a lot of it is just touch points, maybe not huge agenda-based, huge investment. So I think it is a lot easier to pivot, and and a lot of times, I don't go very many weeks without having some sort of canceled appointments, just because I'm making so many, and I'm making them with variable scheduled people as well, who have a buyer's appointment that comes up. Oh, this house just got listed. I gotta go and do this now. So I think that in our industry, it is especially applicable what you had mentioned to at least just make sure that you're calling to confirm the appointment before you're throwing yourself out there of like, oh, I really have this other networking thing, and how would you feel if and then they're like, oh, well, I had to cancel that anyways, and you're like, oh, I should have asked you first. Like, so I think that's where you're coming from, that we just are so heavy based in that it would work to our benefit a lot if we just ask first.
But there is another aspect to it, and it just clicked with me that yesterday I ran into a situation where I had to think quickly on my feet, and having, being open to the change in the plan. So I teach at Gonzaga University, and I went out to my car in the garage at 2:45, knowing I was cutting it close. I needed to jump in my car, get to campus, and my car wouldn't start. I left the light on over days. It finally got down. It couldn't start. So in my mind, I'm going, okay, I don't have the tools here to do anything about this. What do I do? And the first thing I'm going is, well, I'm going to have to get a note in somehow, let the students know I'm just not going to be there. So I'm trying to figure out what to do, and I decide at that moment that I'm going to call my lead professor. And so I call him up and I say, hey, John, car's not going to start 15 minutes away, I'm 15 minutes from class, and I can send him an email, but what about a note on the door or something? And he says, well, could you just get an Uber or Lyft? And I'm going, well, I'm not set up. I don't know how long that will take. And he says, well, if I set it up for you, would you do it? And I said, sure. He says, it's just $10. And he says, just give me the address. And he set it all up for me. And 3 minutes later, there was a Lyft driver out front and took me over. And by the time I walked into class, I was exactly 2 minutes late. And after class, I was able to then clear my head and say, hey, wait a minute. I have Uber Eats. That means I have Uber. so I got myself a ride home, and it was. But my mindset was so off that I had solved the problem, but when I'm confronted with an alternative, I was going, this is a better solution. I can still do what I need to do, and get the and follow through on my commitment with that. So I think it's important. Yes, you need to have a plan and you need to communicate and things, but sometimes that is just to be open to somebody's alternative, that you can keep your commitment and accomplish what you need to otherwise.
100%. I still love, holding ourselves accountable to what we were supposed to do, but at the same time, we're in the same field, and client emergencies come up on a regular basis, so that if a customer goes down, that's priority number one. Because as a business owner, if a business goes down, they're losing thousands of dollars every hour. And being in the IT and cybersecurity industry, that's our obligation, is to get them back up as fast as possible. And we have to hold ourselves accountable to be like, yeah, it's our obligation to get them back up. So if we have a meeting and that meeting could be a sales meeting for a new client that could potentially be thousands of dollars, and we have a client that pays us thousands of dollars, sorry, I gotta go take care of this client. I'm gonna reschedule you, or hold on, let me see if I don't have an SDR or something, like, hey, can I reschedule you? You know, I'm calling them, like, on my way, driving to the client, saying, hey, I have a client down, ransomware, internet down, so on and so forth. They're gonna understand.
Yeah.
Because they know that this is the priority, and then I'm creating the relationship as I'm driving. Or I'm on the FaceTime, or, so on and so forth, like in a Zoom call, whatever it takes, creating the relationship.
Yeah.
And that's what that means. You're still holding yourself accountable, but you're creating a relationship at the same time.
Yeah. I do want to pivot. I think that there's a great shift to consider, is particularly like the habits. And I think this will resonate with everybody. Like, if there's one thing that I'm willing to give up, like at the drop of a hat, is my commitment to myself. Right? So like, okay, I'm going to work out every morning at 9 a.m., whatever it is, right? And then like Mandy's like, hey, you want to grab coffee at 9? Yep. there is no, oh no, I have to work out. No, drop that one. Nope, not happening. So how do we do that? What are some tips that you guys have done as far as, and habits can be working out, can be, making phone calls that you need to make, or working on your database, or any of these sort of like I'm looking at a room full of like more or less we enjoy people, and this is fun, but like working is maybe not as fun. Like how do you time block? What do you do to make yourself stay committed to the micro habits, the commitments to yourself?
I would say it kind of goes back, if you really look at some individuals that are very successful, sometimes they carry some of these things with them, and they open it up and they have a book, writing it down, not just on the day. It's just like you said, it's just too easy to say at 9 o'clock, yeah, I'm not, but writing it down and putting it in that calendar and opening it up. Even if that means that you have to open it up and say, when I was going back to like, I am already committed at this time, the art of saying no, but I can do it at this time. And staying committed, because it's half the battle. If you don't write it down, it's easy, just like you said, you're right. Especially when it comes to the gym. Everyone does it. They're just like, I'll do that one later. 5 o'clock will come around, and then 5 o'clock comes around, and another thing pops up, and the next thing you know, it's tomorrow morning. So really having that schedule. A lot of folks do it from their phone. They do really well from their phone, but look at that schedule. Take that extra second and stay committed to it. That's a real hard thing to do, but those who master it, if you listen to every one of them, they always say they stick to their schedule. Nope, I'm sorry I'm doing this, but 1 hour afterwards, I'm fully open. Because usually that will get you that no, just like you were saying before. Like, if they're already asking you to do that, and you're already committed, they're going to respect that. And then if you turn it around and say, hey, do you have XYZ time available? It puts the ball right back into the court, so it uses both pieces there. But scheduling, committing to it, write it down.
I think I've had such an awakening myself over the last couple of years that, like, if I don't do the things, we're not going to get there. Like, if I don't work out and I'm just like, oh, I can start working out tomorrow, like, that goes on for forever. You're never going to have the vision, the life, etc. you want. And I feel like it's so much about, like, being the person. I love to say, like, it has to make sense to the storyline. So, like, of course, you're going to go work out all the time because that makes sense to your storyline. So it's, like, about who you be. And so it's, like, I feel like it's less, it's, like, building a habit, but it's, like, really just building it into who you are. So it's less of a decision, I think. And you're like, well, yeah, I'm going to go do this thing because, like, that's what I do, duh. That's, it's just so, I think, out of our head and more into our spirit.
So I think similar to Sarah, like that concept of does it fit the storyline, figuring out, like, being having some introspection, finding out what your values and your priorities are, helps out. We talked about priorities a couple times with the tech guys, talking about like clients in crisis. That's what I signed up for. That takes priority. Knowing like those habits that. What are you actually getting out of it? What value does it connect with? Why are you doing that? And then, organizing your priorities. If you look at the origins of the word priority, it's got prior right in the name. It comes first before other things. So find out, in line with what makes sense, what fits the storyline, what is a priority, what has to come first before other things. You talked about, as a real estate agent, your priority is working mostly with clients. So if there's a client meeting opportunity that comes up before the lender, you can communicate with the lender and let them know and collaborate. Like, hey, this is essentially without saying it, but like you're working towards your priority. We had that example of like the speaking engagement. Like if that's a priority and moving towards the dream, that comes first. That comes prior to others. So yeah, I think really, when we do habits, when we connect them with values and priorities, that helps us manage the order of our day. It's Jose, right?
Correct.
Jose was talking about like scheduling, and I heard the best definition of time management is just having control over the sequence of events. And so letting those priorities be in there and knowing what you truly want done first, what's valuable to you, what's a priority, what fits the storyline and moves the arc forward.
I want you to repeat that about just the definition.
Oh, about priority?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, just the origin of the word, prior is in that word. It comes first. Priorities come before other things. And we're in this age of distraction with smartphones and streaming, we often let whatever entertainment come before our values. And so being in touch, in alignment with your values, establishing, truly knowing what your priorities are and choosing those before all the other distraction and all the other noise available to us helps us stick with the habits.
Yes.
I have an experience related to that. So I had to make that priority plan very suddenly at the end of January because I suffered a heart attack. And so I, went in to ER on Sunday night and had the heart attack early on Monday morning, and basically, pretty much I'm coming out of this knowing nothing's going to happen this week. And yet I was still thinking in terms of priorities. It wasn't, I'm going to tell everybody in the world what's happened. I went down and said, okay, obviously my family already knows. The next thing is Gonzaga, because there's 38 students who are now, I don't know when I'm going to get back to them. And so the next contact went to my, vice dean to say, it's not going to happen. What do we do? What's the process? And then it was, okay, now I have my biggest customer, and Mondays are usually my focus days on them. So the next contact went with them. And then I stopped and said, you know what? That's the only people who need to know right now. And then Tuesday, I kind of started opening that up because I was managing that distraction. I knew if I just let everyone know, they'd all want to contact me.
Oh, your DMs would explode.
And so I methodically worked my way out, and I didn't make a public announcement until the Sunday, because that was my strategy, is what's the circle that needs to know, and then what's the next circle, and what's the next circle, in order to make the change. So
I love that you brought up priorities, because I feel like priorities are like, I use them as a decision-making filter. So you know, like, okay, this is more important than this, like, which two things have come up, which thing am I gonna do? And you're like, whichever one is in alignment with my priorities. Like, I do that all the time. My family is my priority over my business. So I've had a time where like uncle has come into town and I'm like, well, I'm supposed to be doing this in my business today, and I'm like, I don't even necessarily want to go see this family member, but I'm like, my family's my priority. So I'm like, okay, cool, I'll be there for lunch, whatever it is. And then I forget everyone's name, but Rob,
Yeah.
You said strategy. So I think it's also about like having the strategy for how you're gonna live by your priorities.
Yeah, so when it comes down to priorities, I kind of do the same things that, about a month ago, my life was chaos. In the tech world, I was unorganized, things like that. And then I came across a YouTube channel from basically a guy that is in the tech industry as well, Andrew Moon, and it was pretty much on chaos in my life, and I followed it, and now I look at my email maybe once or twice a day. I don't look at my phone, I don't get on social media, and I basically task-based my entire day, and I'm more productive. Outside of that, with my ADD, I'm hyper-focused on what I get done, and now I get more stuff done in a single day, and I'm just way more productive now, and I've seen exponential growth.
That's great.
I think if everyone's liking the priority conversation, another thing that can be a little jarring is acknowledging that the reality is priorities happen whether you're intentional about them or not, and your priorities are what come prior. So looking at how you spend your day, like you were talking about Moon and unchaos your life and all the different things that you were putting on the back burner. Before we do that organization, how you're currently spending your day does kind of highlight what your priorities are, and sometimes that moment of truth is uncomfortable. So if there are habits that we want, like you were talking about business first and family, like for me, I know one of my challenges is outbound sales, outbound marketing. And if you look at my calendar and how I spend my time and how little outbound I do, you can see that it's not a priority. And that's a little bit of a harsh reality when you look at, the lead generation in my business where it should be a priority. What you're actually doing is your current priorities. Sometimes that's uncomfortable. Sometimes I just had a Facebook post about, and you commented on it, like my goal is to spend more time reading books than reading Facebook posts.
I was going to bring that up if you didn't. I love it.
Yeah, because looking at it, I don't want to admit that Facebook's a priority in my life. I would much rather admit that reading is a priority in my life. But if you actually look at it, Facebook comes before books, and I'm not happy with that confession. Yeah. So looking at what you do does kind of show what your priorities are, and sometimes that is uncomfortable. It's sometimes uncomfortable to say Netflix is more important than your health. It's sometimes uncomfortable to say Facebook's more important than reading, and it's uncomfortable to say, what you're doing in these distractions is more important than where you want to go, being the arc of your story.
We have to get it.
Yeah.
It's right at home. You're right. I think we can all take apart from that. How much we are. We're flipping through that Facebook. It would be more important to read a book. I think I'm going to take that home. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, and I'm not going to go around the room and everybody confess your sins here. but I will say one of the things that I've realized recently is that it is confessing. And that's a very religious word maybe, but it's when you speak it out loud, right? When you posted that on Facebook saying hey, my goal is to spend more time reading than I do on Facebook, or however you worded that. It's one thing for me to think it. Right now you said that, I'm like, oh, I should do that. Or even seeing it on Facebook, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. If that's all I do, if I just say, ooh, that's a good idea, yeah, I should do that, not very much traction. If I comment on Facebook and hear publicly say, yeah, I need a little bit of that, this is my struggle, that's a little bit more powerful, because now there's people that I've looked in the eye and said, yeah, I need to embrace that hopefully will at some point be like, hey, how's that going? You know, and there's accountability. But man, like when it's one-on-one, like, hey buddy, let's work together on this, and like you call me every week and ask me how I'm doing. Now, and accountability, confession, however you want to, whatever language you put to that, but like really, like this is great. We're all talking about it in a circle. But if we want change, and I think you made the comment about some changes that you made, exponential growth. If we want that, we have to take that step, and we call it micro habit, call it whatever it is. Like we have to make a step in that direction.
Well, and even going off of what he's saying and changing it from Facebook to books, if you still want to be on Facebook, change it from entertaining posts to blogs. Learn something. Educate your brain. Don't just fill it with junk. Because as a human brain, we want to absorb material that's going to grow. Okay? In the fitness industry, how much stuff is there out there that you may not know? Probably a ton, right?
Yeah.
In the real estate industry, it's constantly growing. Same in technology. Every industry grows every single day. So there's constantly new material. It's growing. How do we keep up on that? I watch people all the time on YouTube watching nonsense crap.
Yeah.
Every day I'm on YouTube, I'm just watching stuff that constantly learning. My YouTube stuff is just non-stop educational. I don't even think I have anything on there that I've watched for entertainment.
And there's nothing wrong with entertainment and distractions.
Yes. Yeah.
But when we go back to the priority conversations, it's just prior to does distractions come first, or do your healthful choices or your professional choices or whatever choice you have, whatever family or whatever priorities, what is it that comes first?
Being aware, being intentional.
Yeah, and I think what you said, and you kind of said it twice, and I want to even reiterate it, is this idea of auditing the reality of our priorities. Because I want, and this is something that comes into, well, this is another topic for another day, but like, how do I project to a room full of people? You know, what am I wearing? How do I, have a big beard? Whatever it is, like how do I like my hope of how people see me is one thing. And so of course, like we all want people to think that we're always educating ourselves, never bothered, never distracted, all that stuff. And it's important to project a certain air of confidence and knowledgeability, but also to be able to like audit your actual real lived experience. We're like, yeah, but as soon as I'm out of here, I'm going to be, doom scrolling Instagram and tuning out on Netflix and whatever your vices are. I'm not going to get into all of the details of that. So yeah, that audit of like, what is the reality? And then, okay, this is where I'm at now. This is where I want to be. What are the steps that I can take to get there? And so there's a lot. I mean, we could just keep going. We're getting close to the end of the session, so I want to do a few things. One, again, I want to thank everybody for being here. This is fantastic conversation.
Great crowd today.
Oh, yeah.
Two, I want to introduce somebody that's been very quiet during this conversation. We made her join us a little bit so we can see her, but Christine, can you say hi and introduce yourself? Christine is our guest presenter next week, and super excited to have you, but give us a little teaser that'll make people want to tune in next week.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Christine, and I am a publicist and content creator, and next week I'm going to be giving you guys a little bit of information about the power of community and collaboration as it relates to marketing and PR on a local level. So if you are looking for people locally to work with your business or looking for customers locally, this is going to be a really good conversation on how to reach out to different people in your network and then how to expand your network. So.
Let's go, that's what I need.
Well, and I think that's super timely to how we were wrapping that up, is like, it is important how you show up and present. And yes, I might still struggle with the fact that I do more Facebooking than reading, or I don't work out as often as I'm leaning on Steve here a lot, because Steve is apparently my nemesis in terms of what I ought to be doing and what I'm actually doing. But like, there is an importance that even though I still have things that I'm working on, even though I'm not perfect yet, I do need to present, especially to clients, especially to the public, I do need to present a certain kind of way, because if all I did was show up in a hoodie and just kind of be like, well, you know, I'm just not very good at any of it. Like, who wants to hire the realtor that doesn't do good at stuff? So it's like there's that ebb and flow, and so I'm super excited to have that for our topic next week. I do want to also mention, because we mentioned it at the beginning and maybe a few people missed it, but there's a workshop coming up this Tuesday out at Burbity. Going to be a fantastic workshop with Kurt Stockwell and Kara Hooper, and just really a cool event, 3 hours long, starting at 10 a.m. Starting at 10 a.m. $50 at the door, or $50 to sign up. But if you use the code SSBE, you can get those tickets for free. So
I think that was 24 hours, right?
24 hours, yeah. So like, if you're interested in it, we'll put the link in the description here. But the code SSBE will get you in for free. That's a huge value. Don't miss out on that. Hopefully we don't get in trouble for having too many people take advantage of that, but I'm sure they'll be excited to have everybody out there. We had an awesome conversation, guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining in, and we'll hopefully, Mike, can you move a little closer to the camera and take us out? So I'm going to bring Data Mining Mike, our engineer.
I want to thank you all for joining us today.
You're going to have to go down a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Back up a little bit.
It's always a fun experience.
There we are, Data Mining Mike. Go ahead.
Excellent. Hey everyone, be sure to check us out on Facebook. Be sure to check us out on YouTube. Remember that sharing is caring. Subscribing costs you nothing. It hurts you nothing. It would mean the world to us. And we'd like to thank our sponsors today, McDonald's. McDonald's and PepsiCo.
Actually, Rob Reuter sponsored the food today. So Rob Reuter and Idic Designs, thank you guys. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. We will see you here at Action Business Furniture next Friday. See you later.